Alright guys, the international break is now over and we are well and truly in the business end of the season. We've got a jam-packed Easter weekend of Championship football coming up, and in today's video we are here to preview all the games coming up on Friday. After that round of fixtures, the next games are coming thick and fast. We've got another full round of games coming up on Monday as well. These next few days in the Championship really could be decisive for who goes up and down come the end of the season. As always, I want to get your thoughts on these matches in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's hop into the action. Starting out with the early kickoff on Friday, we're going to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Leicester, and dare I say it, I think this one's a bit of a tricky game to call. Neither team coming into this fixture with a great deal of form. Bristol City have now lost 5 of their last 6 matches, but Leicester don't boast a much better record than that, having only won 1 of their last 5 league games. Hopefully both sides have used this international break to try and have a bit of a rethink and a regroup to properly try and attack this end of the season and finish it as strongly as possible. Worth flagging up that Bristol City can be a bit of a tricky customer when coming up against the top sides. While they've not been on a great run of form recently, it's worth pointing out that at Ashton Gate this season, they've taken points off Preston, Coventry, Hull, West Brom and Southampton. There's definitely something in it with Bristol City that they tend to raise their game against better opposition, and with Leicester maybe not being at their firing best right now, there is a chance for Bristol City to cause a bit of an upset in this game. I think if I was a betting man, I'd slightly favour towards the Foxes, because I just think they have to get back into the groove at some point of winning matches regularly, especially with how relentless everyone else around them has been of late. But a gut feeling for this says that maybe Bristol City get something with their good record against the top sides. Score prediction here, do you know what? I'll go for a 1-1 draw. Why not? Let's start it out with a bit of an outsider shout. Next up then, we go to the Den for Millwall up against West Brom. The last time these two sides met in the Championship, it was a goalless draw. Both teams will be looking to improve upon that this time around. I do think it's hard to see past West Brom right now and the excellent run of form that they are on. A few weeks ago, we did flag up their away form as maybe a little bit of an issue, but since that point, they've gone unbeaten in their last 4 away matches. A good win last time out on the road against Huddersfield as well, a really good second half performance in that game, and they're playing with such a consistency right now that I think you do fancy them in most games they go into. In saying that, Millwall have had an obvious upturn in form recently, and they have put a decent buffer now between themselves and the bottom 3. It was a loss last time out and before the international break, but in a very tricky game against Leeds United. I think this one will be tight, but dare I say it, I think the Baggies edge it on the road once again. Score prediction for me in this game, I'm going to go 2-0 West Brom, I think. I do think they'll get the job done there. Next then we go to Cardiff up against Sunderland. Another tricky game to call here. Sunderland have obviously been on a terrible run of form recently. 6 consecutive losses before they had that draw against QPR before the international break. Still means it's 7 without a win for the Black Cats, but putting an end to that losing run before the international break, just for the sake of their mentality, I think coming out of the break, I think was quite important. Going up against the Cardiff side, who have been on a really good run of form up until the game when it really mattered in the South Wales derby, and we saw hardly any attacking threat from Cardiff in that game. A really disappointing performance from Errol Bullock's side. With all that, I'm not quite sure which version of Cardiff shows up for this game. In the table right now, there's not a great deal between these two sides. They're set 11th and 12th, but Cardiff do have a pretty healthy 5-point lead over Sunderland right now. In saying all that, do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends level. Score prediction, going to go for a 1-1 draw there. Next up we go to Huddersfield up against Coventry, a big game in both sides' seasons. For Huddersfield, looking to get the points on the board for survival, and for Coventry, looking to leapfrog a few sides and get into the top 6. Now, in the case of Coventry, I think this Easter weekend is massive for them and their top 6 chances. They've got games against Huddersfield and Cardiff before they then head into 2 really tricky fixtures against Leeds and Southampton after that. I do think that Coventry will want to give themselves a little bit of room for error in those upcoming games against Leeds and Southampton, and by doing that they probably need to win their next 2 games in order to give themselves that little bit of room for error after that. In saying that, I do think this game will be quite tight. Huddersfield without a win in their last 4 matches, but all of those games have been fairly tight, other than the West Brom game, which just got away from them in the second half. Draw wouldn't surprise me, or one side sneaking it either way. For me, I think I'm just edging on the side of Coventry right now. I have been impressed by Mark Robins' men. Score prediction there, going to go 2-1 to the away side, but a 1-goal margin will probably separate that. Next up we go to Hull up against Stoke. This is a game where Hull really need to show their playoff credentials. Before the international break, we saw Norwich making quite light work of Stoke on the road by beating them by 3-0. Liam Rosenior will be wanting a similar performance from his side in this game. Now, the Tigers are 7 games unbeaten, but important to flag up, they are coming into this game on the back of 4 consecutive draws, which has been a bit of a frustrating run for Hull during that time. Stoke will look to fight in this game, make it tricky for Hull, not leave a lot of gaps in between their back line to go ahead and exploit, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game is played at Hull's tempo, them knocking the ball around and trying to find those gaps and openings, and it's whether or not one of those attackers can make the difference in this game. I was looking through Hull's results prior to doing this video for the majority of the season so far. It's actually quite striking how many of their wins have been by a 1-goal margin this season, and that's probably why there's been so many draws recently for the Tigers, as they have been a bit guilty at times of not properly killing off matches. Score prediction for me in this game, I wouldn't be massively surprised if Stoke scraped a draw, but I'm just going to edge it on Hull for another 1-0 home victory. Do you think the Tigers could get back to winning ways in that game? After that, we head to Carrow Road for Norwich up against Plymouth, where the home side are undoubtedly the favourites heading into this fixture. It's been a miraculous run of form by Norwich recently, and in particular their home form, which has been so crucial in securing them this top 6 spot. Amazingly, since the start of the year, only Leeds have picked up more points than Norwich have in the Championship, and that really speaks to the consistency they're playing at the moment. They're scoring a ton of goals and not conceding that many either, and this game could turn out to be a long afternoon for Plymouth. A Plymouth side who have failed to score in 5 of their last 7 matches. Morgan Whittaker, who's been their real outlet in the final third so far this season, he's only scored 2 in his last 10, so the goals have dried up for Plymouth of late. It is worth flagging up that in the reverse fixture earlier in the season, Plymouth put 6 goals past Norwich. In that being said, I can't see that happening again. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 4-0 Norwich. I feel like they could get a few goals in that one. Next up then we go to Preston up against Rotherham, with Preston having playoff aspirations that are still there. This is a game which we absolutely need to be winning, but in saying that, we can't afford to underestimate Rotherham. Our record against Rotherham in recent history really isn't great. We've only won 1 of our last 8 meetings with the Millers. They always seem to have it in them to nick a point against us, especially when they come to Deepdale. I remember the reverse fixture earlier in the season, they managed to get a point off us, and last season when we played them at Deepdale as well, Victor Johansson just had the game of his life. It was constant wave after wave of Preston pressure, but we just couldn't find the way past them. And do you know what? I wouldn't be completely surprised if Rotherham walk away with a point from this one. Sometimes when teams come to Deepdale looking to sit in a little bit, we can get a little bit frustrated. It's happened to us on numerous occasions this season when we've dropped points against the likes of QPR, Sheffield Wednesday at Deepdale. In saying all that, I read a stat before doing this video. I think it's now been over 500 days since Rotherham last won an away match in the league, which is absolutely bonkers to me. It would be absolutely typical of North End for that record to end against us at Deepdale, but in saying all of that, I think I have to back the boys for this one to get it over the line. It was a good win for us before the international break against Plymouth. I'm going to back us to do the same here. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Preston, but I'm always nervous going into these sorts of matches. A huge game with implications at the bottom of the Championship coming up next as QPR go up against Birmingham. There's only 1 point separating these two sides in the league table right now. Can Gary Rowett have an instant reaction to returning to Blues for the remainder of the season? They really could do with a result in this game. Talking about the form book, definitely QPR who come into this game on a more favourable run. Marty Cifuentes' side have only lost 2 of their last 11 matches, which is a stark contrast to the run of form that Blues are on right now. They've lost 5 of their last 6, so yeah, it has been quite a grim run recently. The last time these two sides met in the league, it was a goalless draw, and do you know what? I wouldn't bet against that happening again in this game. I do think it'll be quite tight. If either side wins it, I'd imagine it would be by a 1-goal margin. With Birmingham, you've got the potential new manager bounce to contend with, but QPR are definitely the more settled squad right now. They're not tending to concede that many goals at the moment either, so I think if Blues want to win this one, they're going to have to nick a goal in some way or another and then just keep it as tight as possible defensively. In saying all that, I think I'm slightly edging towards the home side here. Score prediction there. Going to go 1-0 QPR, which really would leave Blues in it. Next then to Hillsborough for Sheffield Wednesday up against Swansea. Now, while Wednesday have lost their last couple of matches, they were up against very good opposition in Leeds and Ipswich Town. Thankfully for Wednesday, in that time while they have lost back-to-back matches, the sides above them haven't really taken advantage of that, as they've all been dropping points as well. It all means that Sheffield Wednesday still within touching distance of survival, and with a couple of winnable fixtures coming up, they've got this one against Swansea, followed by a game on Monday against Middlesbrough away, which is also fairly winnable. Prior to losing back-to-back games, Sheffield Wednesday had won 4 games on the bounce, and it's that sort of run that they're really in need of right now to properly climb out of the relegation zone and leave it behind them. For Swansea, it was arguably their best performance of the season before the international break, in that great performance against Cardiff. Didn't really let them breathe in that game, and yeah, they were well up and motivated for that fixture, weren't they? And looking at their remaining fixtures between now and the end of the season, I do think there is a chance for the Swans to have a real positive end to the season. In saying all of that, I do still think there is a bit of inconsistency with Swansea. Under Luke Williams so far, they've only won back-to-back matches on one occasion, and with Sheffield Wednesday really needing the points, I think they could sneak one in this game. Score prediction, going to go 1-0 Wednesday, which would be a massive result at the bottom. Next then to Southampton up against Middlesbrough. I do think it's a much more daunting task facing Middlesbrough now than it was a few weeks ago. It was a bit of a frustrating draw for them last time against Blackburn, but 4 games unbeaten now. And do you know what? I think they will give Russell Martin's men a decent run for their money in this game. In the reverse fixture earlier in the season, Middlesbrough did come out on top in this fixture, but Southampton really need to just click into the flow state that they were in earlier in the season and just carry on grinding out the results between now and the end of the campaign and see where it leaves them. Their fixture list is incredibly congested with how fixtures for Southampton have had to be moved and pushed back for various reasons. It does mean that they won't get much of a break between now and the end of the season in all of their matches, but if they want to have realistic ambitions of finishing in the top 2, dare I say it, I think they probably need to win all their home matches between now and the end of the season. With how tricky their fixture list is looking on the road, I think they absolutely need to capitalise on games like this. Don't think it'll be a walk in the park, but I am going to back Southampton to get the job done. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 2-1 Southampton. Next then to Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Ipswich. Both sides could do with 3 points in this game, and it's a really weird phenomenon coming into this game with their freakishly similar runs of form that each side are coming into it, but on different ends of the spectrum. Ipswich have won 7 of their last 8 games in the Championship, while Blackburn have drawn 7 of their last 8 games in the Championship. A really weird clash of form coming into this one. It was a solid point for Rovers on the board last time out against Middlesbrough away, but as we've said countless times over the last few weeks, if Rovers want to avoid the drop this season, drawing matches won't be enough for them, and they need to get some wins over the line eventually. Still yet to get that first win under John Eustace. Can I see it coming in this game? I mean, you never know. Ipswich did have that slip up against Cardiff, but other than that, they've been so good to watch recently. They are scoring a lot of goals, albeit their games on the road do tend to be a lot tighter than their matches at Portman Road. Wouldn't be surprised if Blackburn scoring this game, could see Sammy Smodics getting a goal or 2. In saying that, I think I am edging towards the Tractor Boys here. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-1 Ipswich on the road. And then to finish off Friday's fixtures, we've got Watford going up against Leeds. It is hard to see past Leeds right now with this run of form they're currently on. 12 wins from their last 13 Championship matches. While I do think there probably will be a slip in there somewhere from Leeds between now and the end of the season, because they're always in the Championship and it's bound to throw up a little bit of drama, I'm not sure if that slip comes in this game. It was a Much needed win for Watford before the international break, 1-0 against Birmingham. Tom Cleverley getting that win as interim boss. And to be fair, for Watford's case, I think they'll be quite thankful they've already got 48 points on the board, because their upcoming fixture list is looking absolutely grim. Their next 6 games being against Leeds, West Brom, Preston, Ipswich, Southampton and Hull. No easy games in there whatsoever. Score prediction for this one, I think I have to be back in Leeds. I'm going to go 2-0 Leeds in that fixture and for the winning run to continue. Well guys, there you have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to get your score predictions in the comments down below. How do you see all of these matches going? I'll be back again over the weekend to go ahead and preview all the games coming up on Monday as well, so make sure to go ahead and stay tuned for that. But apart from that, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.